Hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Okay, we are almost there. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. How do we do on the lab? Yes, no, maybe so. Overall, pretty good. It looks like. Okay, it's like an oscillation between okay and good. Okay, so today we are talking about something. Hopefully it won't be too confusing. It is called middleware. Okay. So middleware. What's that sound like? Like where does that sound like it belongs? How about in the middle? Does it sound like it belongs in the middle? Right? This is Malcolm in the middleware. And so essentially, these are functions that you want to run between the request and the response. Okay? So let's just define it. Functions to run between request and response. I don't know why it's complaining. Okay. Okay, cool. So that's it. Let's go ahead and build a quick Express server and start to see something like this in action. Yeah. So if I'm going to start a new project, what's the first thing I need to do? Cores Express, body parser, JSON. What's that? Package.json. All right. How do I do it? Package.json. npm init. I swear I won't do this too many more times. Eventually, I'll just start with this already here. But I just wanted to make sure it's completely drilled into us. Okay, and then npm install. What should I install? Express. Definite. What else might I want? Which one? Sure, I can do body parser. What else might I want? Sure, I'll put it in. I'll throw it in there. I probably don't need it. Cores. Anything else? What? Okay. Didn't hear it, so I won't laugh. It sounded like a good joke that most people laughed. Wish I'd heard. I love inside jokes. I hope to be part of one someday. Anyway, so all right, let's just start building. What do I need to do up here? Okay, let's do a get ignore. I like that. Let's touch. So the reason I wasn't doing a get ignore is because I am still inside of our classroom folder, and I already did do a get ignore for that whole thing. So it's going to ignore it no matter what, but I can do it here too. Touch, get, ignore. Sounds good, Henry. Let's open that up. What do I want to ignore? Sounds good. Why? Because it's like 800,000 files. Who counts? And who's counting, right? Okay, yeah, right? It's like so much stuff, and whomever clones our application is going to run npm install, and it will get all of the dependencies that we've already listed. So then it will create its own node modules. It's not something that we need to pass around. Okay. Now that we've taken care of that, what do I need to do first? Shia?
Require the packages.
Okay, require the packages. Let's do them all, I guess. Express. Honestly, I think I only need Express and cores. So, body parser I'll need if I'm doing something with post requests. I don't think I'm doing that with this lecture. So, that's all I'm going to use. What else should I do? Yeah. I need a port? Okay. What's a common port? Yeah, that's pretty common. mean, you really will see it different at different places. I try to do everything the same every time because then I can remember everything that I've ever done because it's always the same. I don't have to think about it. Yeah, Isaiah.
You have to create a server.
Yep, let's create a server. Const app is equal to express. Is that all I have to do? Okay.
You have to use the chords.
Okay, so you want me to use chorus? Sure, I can do that. App.use chorus, invoke. Sure. Anything else? Come? What? Listen? My wife wishes. Yeah, okay, app.listen. We can pass it in the port. Do I have to pass in a callback function? No, but I can. For kicks, right? Console.log listening on port. Okay. Anything else we should do? Should we run it? Yeah, we definitely should run it because I definitely could have mistyped things knowingly. Luckily, document's not in here. Node mon app.js, but it does say listening on port 3000. Just gonna give everybody a minute to catch up. What? What did I change? What do you mean by what did I change? Okay. No, just kidding. I still see people typing, so I figured that they're just typing slower. Right? This part of the code should start to feel familiar, right? One might even say laborious, right? It's the same thing over and over again. It's boilerplate. Rafiq. What's it say? What's the error say?
It's an original callback required.
Like possibly delete or not remove it and then just reinstall. Any other questions? We doing okay? Yeah. All right. Let's keep going. Well, the seating arrangements are changed because of the pairs, and it is weird. It's great. Like you guys should keep mixing around. It's weird. You're still in the exact same spot as always. That's not. You're my rock. Okay. So let's go ahead and create just a basic API for just a slash that's going to be hit from a GET request. So we're going to say app.get. My URL is just a slash, and then I have a request and a response in my callback function, and I would just do whatever, right? I'll just res.json. Let me just say hello world or something, right? Like nothing too mesmerizing here. I think we've seen stuff like this before. And let's just make sure everything's working in Postman. So I gotta get rid of this. Oh, that's why I can't see. Where are they? Okay. I know some of the things are a little small, but when we get our hello world, right? That's excuse me, that's to be expected. Anyhow, all right. So let's talk a little bit about middleware. So, right, middleware is gonna be a function that we can do before or between. Once we hit this get, we can do it before we actually make this call. Okay? So let's go ahead and make a function as an example. So I'll say const, and I'm just going to call this middleware a. That's the same thing that GitHub has it. And so this, it looks like one of these, like to say, right? This is a function. Our callback function takes in a request and a response. Our middleware is going to do the same thing so that it has access to both that request object and that response object. So we're going to say request, response. One more little argument I'm going to add. This is what's going to make this a little different than what we've seen. I'm going to say the word next. And then that's going to be our regular function. So the thing that makes middleware is it's in the middle, right?
Yes.
Now I could stop thing, and I could make a response in this middleware with the next still there, and that would be fine. But I wouldn't continue moving forward. What next does, it's saying, hey, go ahead and now call the next function in the line. Okay. So let me. I'll just log something like log, not that one, and say like middleware. That should be one word. Middleware A has been fired. And so if you want your next function to still be called, we have to invoke next at the end. Next doesn't take any arguments. We just invoke it. So next is this new thing. Yeah, Shia.
What would be an example of when you would not use it? Like when you would want to wait until you fired the next call.
So whenever you want to happen in your middleware, you want it to happen first, and then you want it to call next, and then we'll move on to the next function or piece of middleware. So maybe your question is more hitting at like when would I use middleware?
Yeah.
Lots of case scenarios. We're using it actually on line 9, but we haven't quite learned that yet. So we're using that so we don't get CORS errors. We could use it for routes that are only available through authentication, right? So when you log into Facebook, you see your friends and all that, but you don't really have a good way of seeing. Well, you can go to my profile. I'm not really on Facebook, but if you go to my profile and then you look at my friends, but you can't see it from my Facebook, right? You can't look at my direct messages. How about that? Right? You can only see your direct messages, not mine. But there's still a route. But the thing is you're passing certain authentication things in, and your middleware could be verifying whether or not that's person's really allowed to see that. So you could have the API to hit it, but if you don't have my password and name, it's probably not going to authenticate you to see my messages. That being said, I don't really care if people read my messages. I don't really use Facebook, but whatever. I'm not really on social media. Like, I have them, but I don't use them. Jenya is trying to teach me how to use Instagram. It's not happening. Anyway, so let me show you how I could use this middleware. So we have app.get. Now, in here, I told you that it takes one argument. I told you it takes a callback argument, and that callback argument was a request and a response. Did I lie to you? No, I told you a partial truth, right? This can take in multiple arguments. Okay, so it doesn't have to just take in one argument like that. I could pass in another argument. I could pass in an argument such as middleware A. And separate that by a comma. So now let's see what happens. And just for fun, I will make a second route as well. This is app.get, and I'll do slash people. This is just to prove a small point. Request.res, and I'll just res.json people route, whatever. You'll know what that means. It's almost like I've never typed before. Okay. Oh, so did I misspell this too? Jesus Christ. Everything's good now, right? Close enough. Okay. So remember, our middleware A is going to log. That's all this function does. This function doesn't do anything interesting, really, but it does log middleware A has been fired, and it has a next call. Okay. Let's first do it without the next call. Okay, so I'm removing the next. I'm going to go over to our postman. I'm going to fire. What's happening? Right, why? Because there's no next. We're never getting a response back, and that function that it's hitting is just logging. So something should be logged to the console, and it is. It says middleware A has been fired, but we're not moving on and saying hello world. Okay, so let's uncomment out next and try again. Oh man, that's like opposite direction. Anyway, I hit it, we get our hello world, and in here we see middleware A has been fired. Right, so every time I click on this, 1, 2, 3, I think I hit it 3 times, right, it's going to print out that many times. It's hitting that function that many times, and we're getting a response that many times. Yeah, sure.
So if you can call multiple arguments, does the order that you put the arguments in depend on how it runs?
It's always going to go request response next. Well, that's a partial truth, but yeah. There's also an error handling thing eventually. That's error request response next. Yeah.
I don't know specifically what her question was, but I think for me at least, it's like if there were 3 functions, would it be like middleware A, then middleware B, then our anonymous and run in that order?
Interesting.
So, left to right?
So it sounds like you've read my mind. We're gonna do that now. Okay. So let's create another function called middleware B. And I say middleware B has been fired. Doesn't really do much different, right? And let's say I go ahead. Oh, one more point I just wanted to show. If I go to people and I type in people and hit send, it does not say middleware A has been fired, right? Because that's only happening when we hit the get route. Okay, so let's go ahead and add middleware B. What do we expect? Talk to the person next to you for 15 seconds and decide what's going to happen. Nober, what do you think? All right, clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Who wants to share? Yeah, Will.
It's going to print a postman hello world, but in the console is going to be middleware A has been fired, middleware B has been fired.
Okay, so Will says the console is going to say middleware A has been fired first, then it will say middleware B has been fired, and we'll still get the same response back of hello world in Postman.
Yes.
Agree. Any disagreeers? Okay, everyone, Team Edward. Let's try it out. Okay, so we hit send with hello world, and everybody was right. That was a unanimous decision. It's like you guys have seen this lecture. All right. That's great. I'm glad we feel okay on that. Right, this doesn't have to be written here, right? I could also have written a function here. I could still write it in the same space. It's a little messier. Request, response, next. And I could do stuff in here. Console.log, function in the middle, or function in the file, whatever that means. Send. Oh, I never called next, right? I never called next. Send it again. And then we get whatever that sentence is. Right, so it's always working in the middle. Any questions on that at all? Yes. What? Otherwise, we do have questions. Okay, so I'm gonna. This is kind of like a little bit messier, so I'm just gonna take that out because I would prefer to write it as a regular kind of callback function. Right. What would happen if instead of saying next here, I did res dot like JSON, and I just said like break it down. What's gonna happen now? Besides this, yeah, there's some bug I wrote somewhere.
Middleware A, 21.
Thank you. Yeah. What's gonna happen now? What will change? What, Danny? What will give us back a JSON? The middleware will give us back JSON? Will we still see hello world? Thank you. We will. It's going to combine it. Okay. What else might people think? Isaiah.
I don't think it'll say hello world because we're not calling any next function, so I don't think it'll move on to the next callback. I think it'll just send the top.
It will just send the first one.
Yes.
Okay. Any other ideas?
I agree with that.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Yeah, Fowler?
Definitely just response in the middle, because I don't know that there's another thing you can execute after giving back a response.
Okay. So you say we're going to get back our first response there of.
I think it works kind of like return. Like a response is.
Response is like the return. And then it ends. Okay, I'm into that. That sounds interesting. Yeah, okay, let's try it. First we send it, and we're gonna break it down. Right? By itself. Okay, next question then. What happens if I write next here? Calvin.
I think it's going to do the rest of the JSON breakdown, and then it should do the next JSON.
The next one.
Hello world.
Okay. Henry? Nothing's gonna change? Nothing's gonna change.
I mean, yes, something will change, but in terms of the JSON will not change, but there will be an error.
There's gonna be an error, you say. What's the error? Don't know. There's something. Yeah, Isaiah.
I think it'll send the last one, so it'll only do hello world,
Only do hello world.
because it might be able to only send one response, or might be able to only see one response, and I think it'll go look at the last possible one.
Okay. That's the last one. So any other ideas? All right, let's see. Break it down. It is a lot like a return. So once you've sent back a response, it's not going to continue going down. Okay. I'll actually keep the next because I just want the middleware.
But I was playing around with it,
Yeah.
and the only time it does change is, well, when I did it, it said I did the rest.json, right? And also break it down, and then I put comma, and then I put next, and then
Interesting.
it went to
Comma is the second argument of the console log.
and it came out as
Well, that's because that function call is going to evaluate first. That's really interesting. Okay. That's weird. I like that. I don't think we need to worry about that for now, but that's really what Henry's saying he did is in his console log he added
no, not in the console log, the rest.json.
in the res. Oh, so okay, sorry. So in the res.json, he added like a call where it said next, like that. So then he got what was next. That's cool. Didn't know that. That is interesting. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's say I wanted to have my middleware A. I've got it here, but I also want it in front of here. Middleware A. I could do that, right? Now, that's B. But let's say I wanted middleware A to run before all my routes, right? So I always want to print. If I, something going on? Why is it printing break it down? I got rid of that, right? Oh, okay, yeah, it says, yeah, but why was that? Oh, there it is. Hello world. It says middleware A has been fired, and I can also go to people. I'm saying people, and I hit send, and it says people route, and it says middleware A has been fired, right? So I've put it in two different places. But what if I wanted this to run before any route, every route? Every route, right? If I want this to run for every route, I don't want to keep writing this like this over and over again because it's annoying. Yeah, it's not that dry. It's also just annoying to have to remember, right? I could have a huge application. Yeah, Farrah? Sort of. So there is a way for us to do it, right? Yeah, Doug? I don't have to require it. So this is what I was hinting at earlier with our cores. So after I've created my middleware function here, if I want it to run before every function, I can put it at the top before all of my routes because it will read the routes from top to bottom. And I can say, hey, app.use, and I'm going to use middleware A. Okay, so let's go ahead and remove the middleware call from these. move it from here. And I'm expecting no matter what route I go to, it's going to hit middleware A.
Do we need to invoke that like we do course?
I don't think so, no. Because it's still just that request, response, next, and it's going to get past that. Okay, let's try it out. We will run people, and we get middleware A has been fired. And we run this slash, and we also get middleware A has been fired. Okay, so that's how we can do that for every thing, every single one. That's kind of fun. What's going to happen if I move? What is it? If I move that to there, will this work the same? Yeah, Brutus.
It'll only work on the, people,
Why?
because it's being read after,
Okay, because it's being read after that. Yeah, Karen? Oh, you're not saying, oh, you were going to say the same thing? Reading from top to bottom? Yeah, Ashia?
I was gonna say some, but it's still reading the entire page
Okay,
because of views
okay.
itself.
Because the use itself, it's still reading the entire page.
Yeah, like
What do
similar
you-
to like I just had it in my head. I don't know, but I think it's gonna make it work.
You still think it's
Yeah,
going to work?
yeah.
Yeah? All right, let's find out. So the question is really, does it work for slash, right? Nope. It does not, but it should still work for people. Oops. All right, so that's one way. That's another way to like control things. I really wouldn't use that as a way to control things. It's a weird way of writing code. If like your functions have to be listed in a specific order, that's not a positive, right? So I would more just use that as a tool to be aware of what I'm doing. So if you have a piece of middleware, it should probably run for everything in that file. So your uses should be at the top. Otherwise, if you're doing it for the specific ones, probably better to like write it in, like we were doing here in the actual middle. Okay, so let's say I also did something.
Well, what if you have like a bunch? Say, for example, like if you had like numerous ones, but you didn't want to do it for all, but a good chunk of it, maybe.
It's a great question. So Ashia says, what if we had like a lot of routes here, like a lot, and we wanted to do it for a good chunk of them. So we're gonna like learn a little bit more about that. I think that's tomorrow. Today's Saturday. Monday. Okay. No, we're almost done with the day. Great. No, we're keep watching. So, okay. So basically, what we're gonna learn is we don't want to have like a crazy ton of routes in a file. That's not a good design principle. Because can you imagine like if your website was Amazon, like how many thousands of routes you would have, and like if you had to go change something or debug something, your file would be just like tremendous, right? So that's a no-no. So what they end up doing is they like split things up. So you can, which we're going to learn about having like creating another router essentially. So we're going to have our like user routes, our product routes, and so they'll be separated. So yeah, hopefully it won't be like that. Okay. Real quick, I think this also works. This isn't in the GitHub curriculum, but I think it's still cool. Let's say I also had a route that was like app.get, whoops, app.get, and I said /people /ID, and this was a request and response, and I just said like res.json, and I said info for, I don't know, request.params .id. Okay, so I'm just trying to get like, that's the information for that specific person. And we can go over here, and hit people, and we hit /ID, people. That's not what I want. What's wrong?
It's colon ID.
What? There's no colon right there. But
Hold on.
up here. I should have just written a real number. Spaced out for a second. Sorry. Info for 5, right? And these are still hitting middleware A has been fired. Now, what if I wanted for only people routes to hit middleware B? I still want to hit A. I want to hit A for everything in there, but I just want to hit people routes to middleware B.
You have to do that. Use middleware beans right on top of the
Yeah, right. I could do app.use in here, right, before. What I'm proposing, though, is I believe we can also do something like app.use. We can still specify a route, I think. I hope I'm right. If this doesn't work, I'll look it up and then get back to you. And call middleware B. Let's see if that works. We hit middleware A has been fired, middleware B has been fired. That was for IAD. Let's take away the ID and say people route. We get middleware A has been fired, middleware B has been fired. And then we'll do a non-people route. And hit enter there, and we have just middleware A has been fired. Because A, B, A, B, A, right?
Yeah, there's no base.
So it was correct, right? Okay. You want to scroll down? Yeah, but then you can't see the new thing. Here, I'll clear the terminal just to really prove it here. So with the slash, we had hello world, and we only get middleware A has been fired. But with the people, we get middleware A and middleware B. And that is because I can also do it like this, where I specify which routes, or like any like partial matching. So people / whatever will continue to use that middleware. The feed.
Is there any, like, would we ever need to just fire middleware B? Or,
Well, like in real life, you mean? Yeah, this is probably what you're gonna end up using a lot more. Because we're gonna say every time you go to this route, we want to go to this router and look at those routes that all start with people. That's when we split up our files. That's what happens tomorrow. But I just want to give you a little bit more information on the middleware. That's a great question. Any other questions? None, really. That's too bad. What? None? Do we feel ready for the lab? Okay, then ask a question. Okay, so why don't we feel ready for the lab if we have no questions?
Which side, this side?
Yeah, this coming lab.
I'm still trying to formulate my question. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Take your time.
My answer, I'm your AB, and then how did you get the last A?
Which last A? This last one here?
Yeah.
So this is happening because we're not specifying a route in front of this app.use.
Okay.
So no matter what route, we're always going to fire middleware A. So that last route we did was just a plain slash. So it's still only going to file. It's going to file middleware A, but the thing that's interesting is that it's not firing middleware B, because middleware B only fires for routes that start with /people.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it.
Awesome. Any other questions? Yeah,
Can you
Shia.
just clarify that a little bit more?
Which one? What I just said?
Yes.
Sure.
So you said middleware A is going to run for all the routes except for middleware B because we just specified it to go to people.
Well, middleware B will only run for routes that start with people, because we specified that. Middleware A here will run for every route that's listed below it, because we didn't specify. So no matter which route I go to, I will always call middleware A first. This middleware use will only happen if the route begins with /people.
Okay.
So will will middleware A still run for people?
Yes, middleware A will run no matter what the route is, always,
Okay.
in this situation. While middleware B will only run for /people routes. Great clarifier. Danny.
So with the app that use cores, that's what's making the middleware that we're using possible?
No. Good question. So cores is a package that we've installed, the third-party module, that is going to allow us to not run into those cores errors. It's a type of error that occurs. It's like some cross-origin reference. What is it? Cross-origin resources sharing. That's what CORS stands for. Thanks, John. And so if it's not allowing for that, when you're in the front end and you're trying to hit from a browser and from your server in the back end, sometimes it won't give you that data. It doesn't feel safe or something. I don't exactly know how to explain that, to be completely frank. But it won't give it back, and instead it will throw a CORS error. What this CORS package is doing is it's saying, don't throw those errors, go ahead and send the data, everything's cool. And so we're putting that at the very top and for use, because we want this to fire for every single route so that we can still get data from every single route. Middleware as a concept in itself is just something that it's in pretty much every kind of framework, at least that I know of. But in this situation, this is coming with Express. It's built in that we can do these request response next as middleware for our Express. But middleware does exist in like when I was used to writing in Rails and stuff. That was also has its own middleware and stuff. Yeah, Doug.
Let's say like you pass in something, right?
Okay.
Like you want the cat to be orange or something.
I want the cat to be orange. Yeah.
If you put the middleware in the middle, can that change it? And then
Yes.
alter it at the end, so then when you continue running the not the middleware function, the other function, it sees the altered.
Yes. That is a great question. So what Doug is asking is, okay, so let's say we have I'm going to put another middleware in our ID of people. Okay, I'm going to call this change ID, and I'm just going to make a quick function here. This is const change ID, and this is going to take in a request, a response, and a next. I'm definitely going to call next. Don't want to forget. First thing I want to do here is I just want to log for you to see. Yeah, I want to log our request.params. Okay? So this is a function. What's the error?
Missing a parentheses on 34.
I'm missing a comma. So I might be missing more. Okay, no, it was just that. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so all this is doing is every time it hits ID, people ID, we're still going to hit middleware A, we're still going to hit middleware B, but we're also going to then hit change ID, which is just going to console log our request.params to the thing, right? The important thing to actually realize in this example is that our middleware does have access to our request and our response object. Okay, so let's just go back to that and we'll say people / we'll say 2. Okay, and we get that info for 2, and we should see here this ID of 2, which is something we're logging in change ID. Right? So don't forget, remember, we could res.send and res.json things in our middleware, and it stopped running then, right? But we also have access to that request object. So Doug has this thing where it's like, let's say we we were obsessed with being number 1. Change ID to 1, right? Like no matter what, I always want to change my ID to 1. I don't care what the user puts in. I'm number 1. I want it to say number 1, right? This is like a real narcissistic app, right? I can do request.params.id, and I can do reassignment. And no matter what the user puts, what happened there? Sorry. No matter what the user puts in, I'm going to change that ID to the number 1. So every time here, when it prints out info for request.params ID, it's always going to say request input info for 1, no matter what. So I'll go here, I send, and it says info for 1. So, okay, well, what about info for 5? No, info for 1. Right, so if you mutate and change your request object in your middleware, it is going to change it for the next things. So one piece of middleware could pass information to the next piece of middleware, and so on and so forth. Okay, that is normal and expected. Great question. Any other questions? And now do we feel ready for the last? Oh, Phil, you got a question?
Yeah,
What's up?
I guess kind of on that, so like, is that also used, say, like you have an error, you use like middleware to do something?
Yeah, so there is middleware to handle errors. That I'm not sure when in the curriculum we get introduced to that, but we will eventually be using that to catch our errors. Good question. Anything else? Anything at all? Yeah, Calvin.
Can I see where you change the parameters?
Yes. Right there on line 33.
Can you explain how it's hitting it? Like when the user's putting in their parameter or their ID,
Yeah.
where it changes?
Sure. So the first thing that happens, right? The user is making this request with a specific ID number in the params, right? So the request has this parameter object, this params object, where it has ID pointing to whatever that user is passing in. Okay. The next thing that happens is it uses the middleware that was listed at the very top for middleware A. This just says middleware A has been fired. It doesn't do anything, but it is console logging that. It moves on to the next piece of middleware, which is, this one is looking for people. This happens second because it's below the one above it. And it says it fires middleware B. Middleware B just says middleware B has been fired. Then we go to this middleware where it says change ID to 1. Takes in its request, response, and next. We log the parameters of request.params. That's why we're seeing this parameter here in the browser. And then it's reassigning the value to be the number 1. And it's saying, okay, calling next. So then it goes to the next thing that runs, which is this callback function. I could throw a next in here and it would be middleware, but it's not going to continue because I know I'm putting a response in here. And then we're just sending back the response.json info for, and we're keying into that request.params and getting back the ID that has now been changed to a 1 because of the change to 1 that happened. Okay. What else? Anything else? All right. We will post pairs for the new lab, and